In this episode, we will explore how to identify what your learners will need to learn to successfully complete a selected learning assessment and the learning outcome that the assessment is based on. Essentially, you need to identify what principles the learners would need to know to successfully complete that learning assessment. Your learners need to learn to be able to do the following three things for each principle in the context of your course to achieve the most significant learning. 1. To be able to explain what the principle is about. 2. To be able to employ the principle in a valuable way. And 3. To be able to explain why the principle is valuable. The first step is to select one of the learning assessments that you developed in the last unit to focus on. Next, start with the cluster of principles you already developed when you were designing the whole course. This is the cluster that you selected to design the learning assessment for. As you review the principles that you identified in your cluster, look for any gaps that need to be filled by adding one or more principles that will help your learners successfully learn what all the principles are. Your next step is to consider and describe how you want your learners to be able to employ each principle in a valuable way in the context of your selected learning assessment. The third step is to describe what your learners will need to understand to explain why each principle is required to complete the learning assessment. You will use this list of principles and their three learning requirements to develop your learning module and the learning experiences in that module, and then repeat this process for each module of your course. One final check that you should do at this point is to review the list of principles and consider if they are appropriate and make sense to you and the learners. In summary, the principle that you should remember and be able to employ from this presentation is: significant learning is the acquisition of knowledge, i.e., learning what the principles are, skills, i.e., learning how to employ those principles, and attitudes, learning why the principles are valuable. All three elements are required to significantly learn a principle and improve performance.